Our coaches make a significant investment both in time and in money to get certified. And many ask, what's the value in the certification? Jeremy, if I were to ask you that, what would you say to that question? What's the value of a Gallup certification?
Yeah, and actually, I love the question, Jim, because I think there's a lot of courses out there that, and our learners, people with learner in their top 5, they go, there's something to learn. There's something great. And although there's a lot of content, and I'll kind of hit on this, there's a lot of content that Gallup gives, but it's more than that. And I think when people think about the financial investment, if you're going to do the accelerated program, which is 4.5 days of your time plus travel, it's an investment. And so that value question comes up. And I think even when people are just saying, what's the value and the benefits? And as I was thinking about this, and just even responses that we've written up, things we've talked to people about, and even responses we've heard from coaches. If you're new to this whole coaching world, or even maybe you are an existing coach, a professional coach, but new to the Gallup tools and CliftonStrengths and wanting to know more about that, one of the things that you'll find, and as you hear from other coaches, is their own testimonies, their reasons to why it's impactful. And a couple of things that I want to kind of share. I think there's really kind of 3 things that you can summarize this in regards to what's the benefit. I'd say it's about impact, education, and certification. And those 3 things, and purposefully in that order, I think the impact piece is huge. One of the things, if you've been around Gallup at any point in time, you hear us talking about, that we exist. The mission of our organization is really to help solve the world's biggest problems. And when you think about over 7 billion people on the planet, and the desire that people have today to live a life that's full of purpose and mission, there's tremendous opportunity to help people to live their best lives. And it's one of the things that Dr. Clifton, the inventor of the CliftonStrengths assessment, one of the things that he simply said is, how do we help people to be the best version of themselves? And I know for many of you as coaches, or many of you that are even interested in becoming a certified coach or giving your life to that, a big part of it is your own personal mission to want to help people to be a better version of themselves. And the interesting thing with that is it's not just about, kind of, hey, Jim, let's just talk about you and let you feel a little better. It really is about impact and business impact. For many of you out there, you're working with senior executives or individual managers or people that are held accountable to performance goals within their organization, even their own personal goals. And so connecting who a person is kind of at their core to what they do, and having the ability to actually sit with them. We use the analogy a lot in coaching of sort of like jumping into somebody's car, not grabbing the wheel and driving them there like an Uber driver, but it's actually sitting in the passenger seat. And so by becoming a Gallup certified coach, you have the ability to help people navigate their way through life, navigate their way. And again, sometimes they're coming to you because they have a challenge. Sometimes they're coming to you because things are good and they just want it to be better. Sometimes they've got a big decision to make. Maybe they're super successful with where they're at, but there's new opportunities in front of them. And so that ability to sit with them and navigate, or we will sometimes use the analogy too of helping them hold up the mirror, or to just be a thought partner to them. Oftentimes I'm coaching people that go, okay, I was thinking about that, but I just wasn't sure. Thank you for the validation, or thanks for helping me dig into that. And so I think that impact piece, changing people's lives, it's why at Gallup, when we've said we want to reach 7 billion people, and if we started with even 1 billion people knowing their strengths, how do we get to a point that we have 1 million coaches that are part of this network with us to help us do that? So that impact piece is really critical. The second thing is really around education. And kind of when you think about education, there are a lot of you out there that, again, are already coaches, or if some of you are new in your coaching journey, I know you maybe are even interested because you're saying, I want to become educated. I want to learn more. And although Gallup has a lot of great books, resources, online tools, kits that you can purchase that can help you on that journey, there's something powerful about sitting with a group of experts. And I say this because in my own journey to Gallup, I knew the CliftonStrengths assessment. I knew as much as I could gain from a book or some online webinars, but there's something about going through an intensive course with, in this case, Gallup experts that have, are very close to the research and the development of it. But it's taking, and as Gallup talks about kind of that journey toward becoming strong at something, the journey toward becoming great, it's not just about your talent to be a great coach or a great advisor, but what are the knowledge and skills that you add to that? So what do you need to learn? What are the tools that you can learn? And so with the Gallup certification, I hear coaches all the time that just are saying things like, I thought I knew how to do this, but I had no idea the complexity and the depth of all 34 themes, or what it looks like when you combine those themes together. And I know, to even my colleagues on the call today, Mike, I know you've experienced this a lot in the course. It's day 3 and people are like, okay, too much, and my brain's about to explode. There's so much depth that I think people don't realize till they get into it. And so by becoming certified, we're really kind of unveiling the curtain and giving you Gallup's best thinking around this. When you begin to think about it too, there's a different approach that Gallup has taken. And again, Dr. Clifton was named, the father of strength-based psychology and the grandfather of positive psychology. So when you begin to help people using this tool of focusing on what's right instead of what's wrong, focusing on what they do best and using their own strengths or the strengths of their team members, it's a different approach. So I know many coaches out there, you've got a lot of tools in your toolbox, and this is one more tool to approach people and helping them impact their lives and impact their businesses and impact individual performance in a new way. Actually, one of our coaches, and Jim, I know you know her well, she's been on Call to Coach before, but Maureen Monty, one of the quotes that she gave, and it's out on our website, but she just says, the certification helped me gain confidence in my craft. I mean, she was already a coach. She was already certified in a lot of other tools and resources. She loves strengths, but by going through the certification, by getting trained and educated and having access to some of those new tools and ideas, it helped her gain confidence, which again, that serves you as an individual tenfold when you not only are passionate about it and want to help impact people, but you're educated on it. You've received the education to get there. And then the last piece, like I said, very simply, certification. So impact, education, and certification. And certification, it's interesting because I travel the world too. If you tell somebody they're certified or certifiable, kind of sounds like you're entering them into a mental institution. They're like, no, thank you. And I don't want to pay money for that. But what's interesting is I hear this from people all the time is, I might be passionate about being a coach, or I've done some other education, but how do I become kind of an official part of this movement? How do I gain, just like a doctor, how do I get the right credentials on my wall that do 2 things? I think one, it gives me that confidence that I've officially been trained by this organization or around utilizing this tool. The second thing is I think it instantly gives you some credibility. If you went into a doctor's office and they said, oh, so I never went to med school, but I've gotten pretty good at this. There's a lot of coaches out there that you're having impact, but I've had several coaches that I have interacted with over the years, and people that own their own independent consulting practices that are very successful, but have said, hey, I'm working with this client and they want somebody that is certified by Gallup, that has kind of that stamp of approval. And so in going through the certification course and the process, that we'll talk you through in regards to kind of what does that look like, you're becoming an actual certified coach. We're going to give you a digital, logo. You can bear that title of, a Gallup-Certified Strengths Coach. It lets you expand your brand. You're now part of that Gallup network and strengths coaches community. And again, there's a lot of people out there that use the CliftonStrengths tool, that it's something they're familiar with, but you're now becoming part of this small but quickly growing, group of thousands of coaches that are part of that Gallup brand and our mission of reaching 1 million coaches that will help us, impact 1 billion people. So that certification, again, not only does it give you that stamp of approval, it allows you to be part of something bigger than yourself. You're part of that network of coaches, and that an extension, as our CEO always says, of the Gallup tribe, that together we're changing the world. And again, our coaches, our certified coaches, get to be a part of that. The piece that's interesting too, and some of you out there, maybe you're still thinking about certification. You've maybe jumped onto some of these online, kind of learnings that we offer, or conversations that we have. Some of you too have maybe had a chance to come to our Clifton Strengths Summit that we do every summer. And what's really interesting, and you figure this out pretty quickly, whether you're on a chat room, whether you're in person with people, there's something different about this network of coaches. Some people have asked me, like, aren't they super competitive? Aren't you worried about somebody trying to steal a client from you? And although there can be that competitive nature of wanting to grow your own independent coaching practice, when you're talking about 7 billion people on the planet, it's less of a competition and it's more about collaboration. And actually, one of our other coaches, Beverly Griffith Bryant, said this, and I love the way she said it. She said, we don't compete, but we actually complete each other. And it was really interesting where she was actually saying, these other coaches make me better. They push me to be better. Now, there might be clients where another Gallup-certified coach or somebody who's certified in a different assessment might win the business. But the reality is, with 8 billion people on the planet, there's opportunity for us to come alongside countless numbers of people. And so being part of something bigger than yourself, especially if you are an independent consultant, coach, even somebody that's within a large corporation, to have this network of people that are like-minded. And so that certification gives you access to not only saying I'm a part of that official brand, but there's online learning, other components that we continue to offer from a Gallup standpoint that enable you to support the people that are around you. So that piece of it, again, kind of from when you think impact, wanting to change lives of people, education, just learning more to become an expert on the tool, and then that certification that gives you some of that credibility and allows you to be part of something bigger than yourself is key. And one last thing I'll say, and then if you guys have questions, or Jim, if there's any questions from chat too, we can chime in on this. But one last thing I'll say, and I hear this a lot from people, the cost of the program to become certified, to get the education, it's an investment, especially if you're an independent coach, even within an organization, it's a big investment. But think about anybody you'd go to for advice. And if you went to a doctor and said, hey, I'd like for you to give me some advice on this, or you went to a financial advisor, or you would hope that they, again, were not just educated or good at it, but they had invested in themselves and in their practices to do what they do. Now, the reality is, for many of them, if you use a doctor as an example or a financial advisor, the cost of business school or all these other components is, when you think about that compared to, what Gallup's charging for our courses, it's we're charging a fraction of that, but it's still a big investment. But when you think about the investment in yourself, the investment in your clients, I hear people say all the time, it's totally worth it. Even people that have gone through other certification programs, I've yet to hear somebody say, give me my money back, this wasn't worth it. I hear people say, I don't necessarily want to pay double, but it was even worth more than what I paid. And so the impact piece into themselves, into their clients, is a huge component from what I've seen. So Micah, Angela, anything else you guys would add, or Jim, any other questions from Chad on that?
Jeremy, I have a question about readiness. I think sometimes when coaches are thinking about, they're just sort of on that bubble of do I or don't I. You've taught a lot of these courses and coached a lot of the coaches that come through the certification. How would you describe what coaches could do to prepare for certification, or maybe where they need to be even in, this might be a content place or like a personal discovery place, but how do you enter certification at sort of a readiness aspect? Where do you need to be?
What I like about thinking that way, and even again, like anything you're going to attend, what do I need to do before I get there? Even if you're taking a trip for vacation, what do I need? What's the weather? Why do I need to pack for this? And so the readiness piece, I think even doing what Micah just said, of asking yourself, what can I do to prepare, is going to help you to hit the ground running. The other thing I'll say on this, though, in regards to what to do, I think there is a very wide variance. For some individuals, I know they're in the course, very new to even CliftonStrengths. They may even be working somewhere else, but thinking and kind of really processing through becoming a coach. And then there's other people that have been coaching and, again, owning their own coaching business or consulting business and have been doing it for decades. So there is a variance of who might be in the course with you. But what I would say is, hold up the mirror to yourself before you get there. What is it that I need to know about me? And I think even just that simple piece, if you're brand new to strengths, or you've been using the CliftonStrengths assessment for decades, hold up the mirror to yourself, dig into your strengths, be refreshed by what are my strengths? How am I going to coach? Who are the types of people that I want to impact? And I think even answering that question of why is this important to me? Fast forward a little bit, I'll often say, because I have futuristic in my top 5. If you don't have futuristic, you can borrow mine. But think about, what do you want to accomplish after the course? Who is it that you want to impact? And I think if you can do that, if you can think about your own strengths and you can begin to think about who you want to impact, part of that preparation then will help you come in with a readiness. I know for many of you, you're going to say, I wasn't, again, by day 3, you're going to go, I wasn't ready. There's so much information, but I think that can help you to prepare a little bit.
Jeremy,
anything else you would add? Yeah.
You mentioned earlier the ongoing education. I think talk a little bit about, after you get through the initial coursework and certification and you're a Gallup certified coach, the benefit of that ongoing education that we provide, say, for example, through the learning series. What do you hear about the value that provides to coaches who are certified?
Yes. And Jim, you can chime in with this too. It just kind of almost connecting the dots on the library of resources that we have. But back to the value piece, Angela, I think, again, people don't just want the one and done. It's even where, again, in a lot of professions, like I mentioned, with people that are advising around health, around finance, they weren't just educated a decade ago and now they've been doing it. They're constantly sharpening the saw. And again, I like that hospitals have doctors, and nurses and others continue to get ongoing coursework and things that keep them sharp. And I hear from our coaches often about the importance of that. You're not only being exposed to what Gallup's learning, but being exposed to best practices of others. So that whole idea of it wasn't just we trained you, good luck, go do it, but being part of that learning community. I think you used that word too, Angela, being part of not just a community of coaches or a network, but a learning community where we're constantly learning from each other. And it's interesting, the number of people that when they go through the course, these are almost kind of new family and friends. And you'll see them when they get together, at the Coaches Summit, they'll go out, for dinner or cocktails, but they'll connect with people because that sense of learning from each other is just as important as learning from Gallup. So I think by providing that, we're giving them that continuous piece for both of those.
And let me jump in and say, for those who've been out, maybe you haven't been keeping track and you're in this community, 5,000 certified coaches now in our community, some 10,000 that have been through the training. We'd love to see more of those that have been through that haven't certified. Mike is going to talk about that here in just a few minutes. Get that certification for these reasons. Those resources, actually, Micah helps me make a lot of those. We make them available to you through programs like Theme Thursday. We interview dozens of coaches every single year on their best practices and what they're doing. So you don't have to go out, and if you can't make contact with them, we make them available virtual in 3 or 4 different countries, by the way, not just US centric, but we think about India and Australia, what's going on in Asia, and Europe is going to be coming online this year. So we're really, really excited about that. So Angela, you mentioned the learning series every single year, 7 or 8 sessions where we go hardcore into your professional development. So lots of benefits to being certified when we think about those.